Hello viewer, welcome to yet another fresh edition of the program Aqua Farming. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, Aqua Farming is a program designed to make sure you know all you need to know that is in the water. And today on the program, we'll be looking at fish marketing. Marketing of fish involves all the activities and the flow of fish or fish product from the farmer to the consumers. It includes various operations required to move the fish or fish products from the producer to the consumer. Marketing of fish also entails the buying and selling of fish by an individual who may not be a fish farmer. The person's target is usually to close the gap between the areas of scarcity and abundance. In this episode of the program, marketing of fish is centered on processed fish, which we are also referred to as fish products, since that of live fish was handled in several episodes. The main feature of marketing fish is that it is the point at which the price of fish is determined by the parties involved, such as the farmers and the middlemen and other consumers for economic return. Take a look.
In Nigeria, given increasing demand for fish, there seems to be potentially strong market for the products, and markets determine marketing policies. So markets have to be considered before policy making can start. This documentary provides solution to some key questions in the study of marketing of fish products in Nigeria, such as key question on commodity chains networks, trader roles, control of market space, market information, credit provision, transportation question, consumption pattern, food safety regulation. Key questions around legislation, standardization of weights and measures, trader association, pricing, the role of traditional authorities and alternatives to traditional intermediaries, form of supply. This documentary therefore focuses on fish marketing and food security in Nigeria. At various stages of development were considered. The documentary also shows some major findings that will assist policymakers. It also revealed the key roles of storage and processing as main factors aimed at improving fish marketing in Nigeria. Fish is the main animal source of protein for the people of Nigeria. As a principal source of protein, the per capita production of fish is declining. Fish production from inland waters and coastal areas can be increased by adopting cage and pen culture system. Input subsidies and loans to resource-poor farmers can boost fish production. According to FAO in 1998, there are some essential nutrients that are not found in these staples or found only in small quantities. For example, essentially fatty acids, iron, zinc, calcium, vitamin A, and vitamin C. Majority of people are highly dependent on fish as part of their daily diet in countries in Africa, and Nigeria is no exception. Fish provide at least 40% of dietary animal protein. They also provide highly digestible energy and a rich source of fat and water-soluble vitamins, minerals, and fatty acids. Fisheries have contributed in the past towards poverty reduction in poor societies in few areas of the world in which it is traditional practice. Fishery sector provides employment for the citizens. It contributes more than 40% of animal protein consumed by average Nigerian. It generates income along its production, processing, preservation, and marketing chains. The handling, processing, and marketing of fish products are essential, complementary function of all food production system. Additionally, the fish trade offers substantial employment opportunities in many coastal and inland areas where fish is caught. Despite the substance nature of our captured culture in Nigeria, as much as 50% losses are recorded, the result being economic loss to fisher folks, fish processor, and marketer. Nigeria has a land mass of arable and estimated about 925,771 square meter, and large forest range that covers 370,000 square meter. There is a variety of livestock, comfortable climate including our 960-kilometer shoreline, rivers and lakes reaching 120 square kilometers, and a population of about 200 million. All this leave potential investors in agriculture with a large market and endless opportunities in Nigeria and even Africa. Despite the natural endowment, the agriculture sector remains one of the most underinvested in the country, thereby hindering Nigerians' huge potential and ability to help stem food crisis in Africa. The fisheries subsector is also a heavily unexploited with a domestic demand supply gap of nearly 1 million metric tons per annum. This gap is usually filled with importation of canned and frozen fish, but Nigeria has great fishery potential that can support any level of fishing investment. With a coastline of 800 km underexploited exclusive economic zone of 256 square meter, supported by 194,250 km brackish water, inland freshwater rivers, inshore, fishery and lake chab resources. These resources base support pelagic, bonga fish, sardines, demersal resources, shrimp, barauda, and the tuna fishing and processing. This is besides an aquaculture resources based all over the country, which is already attracting investment from domestic and foreign investors, especially those from Southeast Asia. Enormous opportunities exist in production, commercial research, marketing, transportation, storage, retailing, financing, and exporting with promising returns. The fish marketing chain is an amalgam of economic, geographical, and socio-cultural orientation. The chain itself starts with the harvesting of fish in several fishing villages, hamlets, and towns, and the consumption centers of several cities. Each stage of the chain depicts varying intricacies of organization and relationship. These organizational structures and relational provide the building blocks of the study. Different stages of the chain involve the participation of different age groups, different genders, various ethnic groups, and people at different levels of prosperity, poverty according to research. The relationships and the interaction with a given stage and between one and other involve several networks of ethnicity, gendering, and social capital, particularly trust. It is a pattern of interaction within the fish marketing chain involving several socio-economic and geographical networks with varying ramification that is the focus of the study. The intention of this issue may throw up other critical ones: fundamental in marketing, reorganization, and the assets of food, in the case fish to the urban poor. Now, let's look at the structure of fishery sector in Nigeria. Artisanal fishery has continued to dominate the fisheries, contributing over 85% of total fish production. The inland water and coastal seas are fully exploited, and an increase in fishery production is not likely. Aquaculture potential remains untapped, as much as deep sea fisheries. The combined potential of the fisheries resources, freshwater, marine, and aquaculture can meet over 90% of the nation's demand for the fish. Opportunities for investment therefore exist in the various subsectors, especially in the areas of storage, processing, preservation, and marketing for the capture of fisheries and fish seed multiplication for aquaculture. Now, let's look at contribution of fisheries subsector to agricultural share GDP in Nigeria. The total contribution of fisheries to the Nigerian economy has been estimated at about $1 billion, with a capitalization of 78.550 billion. In addition, the total aquaculture investment and capital contribution in the country are put at 7 billion and 20 billion respectively. Total estimated capitalization is put at 16.5 billion. With these manpower and infrastructures, artisanal fish production system has a total landing of about 540,000 metric ton at an average of 200,000 metric ton, will equal to 1 billion 85 metric ton of fish are produced in fish farm in Nigeria, making the country largest aquaculture producer in Africa. But this production is negligible when compared to project yield estimated at about 2 million tons. Jobs could be created in this industry for fish handling and processing and marketing, producing of some 45,000 tons in the next 3 years. The development will have significant economic impact. doubling revenues from a $50 billion to $100 million a year industry. Now, let's look at the role of women in fish marketing. Women play significant roles in all aspects of fisheries, both in the artisanal, small-scale sector and the commercial sector roles that remain inarticulated and unrecognized. Importantly, women's roles span reproduction and production. Women's reproductive roles are essential for nurturing and sustaining families and communities and ensuring food security through fishing, food foraging, farming-related activities. The productive roles of women in fishing, collecting seaweeds and other aquatic resources, processing and making the fish catch, making and repairing nets and gears, baiting long lines, helping in the preparation of fishing trips, and in unloading and sorting the fish contribute significantly to household incomes and local economics. With the monetization of the fishing sector, the productive role of women has in some cases been extended to new activities previously forbidden by gender norms. For instance, in some regions, more women go fishing with their husbands or with other group of women in several countries of the north. Women are part of the commercial fishing sector, working as crew or skippers or industrial or family-owned vessels. Women also form a significant proportion of the workforce in industrial fish processing, within the organized and unorganized sector, working for wages to sort, clean, and process fish. The accompanying increase in work income has not always resulted in increase in women's status within families and communities, often in keeping with prevailing patriarchal norms. The control of resources remains vested in men. In many cases, diversification increase in roles has only meant an increase in women's labor. Now, let's look at the methodology study area. The study area are Ilaje and Isodo local government area of Ondo State, Nigeria. The two local governments are bound in the north by the Ikale local government area and the south by the Atlantic Ocean, with a coastal of 80 kilometers long. This makes Ondo State qualify as the maritime state and makes it a rank among highest fish producers in the country. About 80% of the local government area is covered with water, swamp and floodplains. Rivers largely intersect the area. A vegetation of white mangrove, Orsania africana, and Paspalum virginatum characterize the coastline. Most of the floodplains of the coastal lagoon are covered by Tafa asphalis. The major means of transportation in the study are motorized canoes, speedboats, and paddled canoe. Most of the houses in the coastal and floodplains area are built on the elevated platforms above water level. Fishing and its related activities like processing, preservation, and marketing are the major means of livelihood in the area. Focus group discussion and primary data were used for this documentary. The primary data was collected using pre-state and validated questionnaires. Questionnaires are administered, out of which 80% were found usable. The 80 respondents were made of 50 household sellers, 30 retailers. Collected data were analyzed through the use of statistical tools like average and percentage distribution. The above assertion shows that 70% of the respondents secured their loans from non-institutional sources, like relatives group contribution and fish marketers cooperative society. 23% secured their loans from institutional sources and 10% from other sources. Majority prefer the non-institutional source of credit because the loan is easy to access. It requires no collateral, as majority of them are poor. Also, it requires very little formalities to access. This, however, has some advantages too, as revealed by the respondent. These include most of the non-institutional sources provide loan as well as dominating the trading and influence the prices of fish by women in the study area. They are usually the wholesalers. Also, the interest is difficult to calculate. Unfortunately, the unfavorable financial condition of the women fishers, who are usually the retailers, compel them to take the loan from non-institutional sources. Those that secure loan from institutional sources give the following reason for their actions. Price of fish is not influenced or exploited and the interest is easier to calculate. However, the advantages according to respondents are the loan is not easy to access and the procedure is cumbersome. It creates pressure, it has high interest rates, and it requires collateral to access. The per capita income per day of the wholesalers, retailers, is still lower than the recommended value. However, per capita income of the wholesaler is very close to the recommended value because they dominate the market and they have more capital base to finance the business. Now, let's look at the policy implementation or the policy implication. The operational characteristics and the constraint in fish marketing chain throw up a number of policy issues. Social capital, including trust, has proved to be a fundamental facilitator of marketing chain. What seems to have been important is the relationship built over the years through interaction in the marketing chain. This is a good basis for not only improving the marketing process but also encouraging ethnic harmony, particularly in ethnically polarized cities and areas. The exclusive female marketing system may be a basis for economical empowering women. The experience of many of the traders has been such that the fish trade has provided an opportunity for them to break the poverty and unemployment cycle. Many of the women interviewed during this documentary discussion indicated that most of them were unemployed and depressed until they were introduced to the fish trade, usually by their relations or acquaintances. Whereas the fish marketing system provides the basis for some meaningful policies, there are aspects that require reform. The most critical in the elongation of the marketing chain because of the intervention of the several middlemen. Perhaps this may in certain cases provide additional income for some rural dwellers. However, this complicates the protein deficiency problem of the urban poor, particularly children, as the prices of fish may unnecessarily become unaffordable. In conclusion, it can be concluded from this documentary that fish marketing can contribute income and food security in the study area. However, the potential of the contribution can be enhanced by increasing the capital base of the marketers through institutional credit supply. One of the major problems that militate against fish marketing in Nigeria a combination of inadequate funds, transportation, storage and quality inadequate funds is a major constraint faced by both wholesaler and retailers, with wholesalers ranking the highest and that will affect the quantity of fish required by them. The lack of good storage facility is a major concern of retailers, whereas transportation ranks higher with wholesalers as presented. This is obvious considering the fact that retailers usually sell in small quantity at a point in time. Hence, good storage facilities would mostly be their concern. Wholesalers, on the other hand, usually travel far and wide to procure the commodity and to have to contend with the rising transport fare. Transportation costs was found to constitute large portion of marketing in Africa. Due to lack of storage facility, there is a limit to which a seller or consumer will stay with unsold product or unfinished item. This is especially the case when fish is in fresh form. In regards, retailers are likely to obtain higher profit because of the risks they bear as sales are gradual and can take longer periods. Secondly, wholesalers usually travel long distance to procure product and therefore bear the cost of transportation and loading. These constitute part of their variable costs, thereby reducing profit margin. Thirdly, volume of sales by wholesaler is higher and thus buyers, mostly retailers, enjoy the benefit of scale economy. As a result, the marketing margin of the wholesalers and retailers indicate ability of the fish marketers to risk bearing, although it indicates that retailers got higher gross margin compared to wholesale than the marketing margin of the latter.
The Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria (ARCN) coordinates the activities of research institutes and is responsible for supervision, regulation, coordination of research activities and programs of higher institutions in Nigeria. I'm Professor Hamidou Shaributu since assumption as Executive Secretary of ARCN in April 2020 has solidified the transformation of agriculture in Nigeria through strategic and meaningful execution of research findings for improvement of the agricultural sector.
The rubber tree has two major outputs that are useful in the industrial sector as well as other uses. These include the white liquid substance tapped from the rubber tree, which is called latex, and the rubber seeds that are produced from the rubber trees. After the liquid is tapped from the rubber, it can be sold in its liquid form or processed into rubber sheet. To achieve standard of processing of rubber liquid into a more profitable form, the Rubber Research Institute of Nigeria has a rubber latex processing section.
Here is a pilot plant set up by the Rubber Research Institute to encourage, through demonstration, the value chain addition of our produce.
Okay.
Usually, when you tap rubber from the field, as I'm very, very sure you guys have seen earlier today, it is processed into raw materials that can be consumed by would-be manufacturers who are interested in using natural rubber as a base raw material.
For grains, we have the parabolic solar dryers. These are specialized solar dryers used for drying agricultural produce such as whole grains, yam and cassava chips, fruits and vegetables more efficiently. It is made of a special material that concentrates the rays of the sun within the enclosure while eliminating harmful ultraviolet radiation. Products dried are free from contaminants and are hygienic.
The parabolic shaped solar dryer is a need-based technology because virtually when we travel all over the country, you will see by the roadside, you see people drying all sorts of agricultural produce. Some spread their own on bare ground, and by the time the vehicles are moving, the raised dust, the dust stay on the products. The reptiles will come, they will eat whatever they can eat, drop their feces and their urine on it, and the owner comes in the evening to pack everything together and still eat that product. And the product has been contaminated, and we feel this is not right, and it is part of our mandate to make sure that we set it right, and that was what led to this, so that we can solve this problem at the grassroots level. Instead of drying by the roadside, drying on just bare ground in their villages, when they have this as a drying center, everybody in the community can bring their product there, spread on the tray, and they get it dry under hygienic condition that is covered. And the dryer also have another property to screen the ultraviolet ray of the sun, which is also can cause hazard to human health.
Since then, Professor Shaributu has operated as visionary captain by restoring the council's glory with the first ever agricultural television and radio station in Nigeria, with well-equipped studios parading state-of-the-art equipment.
The Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria also has a brand new electronic library to further promote research and visualizations of deep thoughts on agricultural development in Nigeria.
The museum, located in the Senator Abdullahi Adamu Center, is an agricultural museum saddled with the responsibility of keeping records of agricultural findings, discoveries, researches for continuity and history purposes.
Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria is wearing a new look under the stewardship of Professor Garba Hamidu Shaributu, who says, "Alone, I am nothing, but together I am something. ARCN,
promoting agriculture.
Welcome back. The fishery industry is crucial to the world economy. The livelihood of millions of people worldwide is dependent on fish farming. Fish is one of the cheapest and direct source of protein and micronutrients for millions of people. In Africa, and Nigeria is not an exception, fish is readily digestible and utilizable by the human body, which makes it suitable and complementary for a region of the world with high carbohydrate diets like Africa. With a steady decline in capture fisheries, aquaculture is a ready veritable tool in the provision of the eating all over the continent. Unlike some other animal products, fish is widely accepted. It is acceptability cut across social, cultural, and religious backgrounds. On that note, we come to the end of this episode of the program Aqua Farming. Bye for now.